Good evening, I'm Susan Watsby.
And I'm Cliff Troutop, and welcome back to SSB News on Channel 9. Susan, what can we look forward to this evening?
Tonight, the team at SSB News explores the topic of social selling and how it's changing the art of sales in the software industry. Essentially, social selling is all about leveraging your professional social network to find the right prospects, build trusted relationships, and ultimately achieve your sales goals.
Fascinating. So in the software industry, you're saying social selling is about removing traditional cold calling from the sales process and injecting business pitches via social media into the mix?
Actually, social selling, whether it's B2B or B2C, is much more than that. It's about utilizing those social media networks, such as LinkedIn and Twitter, to find potential customers, relate to their needs, and engage them. These professional networks developed through social media build real relationships, so salespeople are treating them like that. They're listening and learning about their customers so they can foster more meaningful collaboration. It's really creating a new step in the sales process. If executed correctly, these relationships can feel very genuine to customers in a disingenuous world. People will actually listen when you talk to them, if you listen first. It's changing the conversation. But if you're not sold on the power of social selling yet, we've brought into the studio Pam Bolognese, a Yale professor who has devoted most of her life to market research in the software industry. Thanks, Pam, for joining us.
Thanks, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here today.
I'm sure. So Pam, tell me, we're talking a lot about the effectiveness of social selling in software. What's the perspective in this craze in the academic world?
So there's been a plethora of research done around the world, and not only from academics such as myself, but many companies are performing internal reviews of their team's effectiveness to uncover the science behind social selling. With so many people intrigued at this concept, many interesting theories have arisen. So for example, Corporate Executive Board's 2014 Top Insights for the world's leading executives reported that 77% of B2B buyers do research online before reaching out to sales, and 57% of them have already made a purchase decision before even talking to a salesperson. This is changing the role of a salesperson from information provider to influencer.
So if that's the case then, Pam, why would anyone rely on traditional email blasts and cold calls to drive sales?
Social-Centered Selling did a comprehensive survey of the effectiveness of social selling and isolated two barriers to adopting this sales strategy. First and foremost, a lack of training. From a poll of salespeople in the US, 75% of their respondents indicated that they were given no training in effectively using social media as a sales tool. This is a pretty big barrier if a company is expecting big things from their employees. Moreover, they discovered a common concern among sales leaders is that their salespeople will just spend too much time on social media. This has been disproven multiple times from sources such as Jonathan Beecher in Forbes and the Harvard Business Review. Most salespeople don't spend more than 10% of their time through these channels, and it doesn't even matter because they're bringing in more sales.
Fantastic insights. Thanks for joining us, Pam. It's now time for the crossfire. 60 seconds of battling it out between current sales leaders on what truly is the best practices in the industry.
Well, it's always nice to hear what the research is saying, but as a sales executive working in the field, I've got numbers to hit, so I need to be aggressive. Mark Miller, CEO at Valeris Group, says that the first option should be to reach out to a mutual connection and ask for an introduction or referral. Statistics show that 84% of B2B decision makers begin the buying process with a referral. You need to send out those messages. It's the only way to consistently build your network.
So Jody, I couldn't disagree more. While reaching out is important, social selling isn't just about making connections. They'll still see you as a salesperson. So Julio Vistovic, VP of Marketing at R Factor, noted that social selling is not the place for the hard sell. It's a place to build trust and credibility. People will flock to you once you position yourself as a trusted advisor with valuable educational material, rather than just some sales professional who's pushing a corporate agenda.
That's so passive, it would never work in the field. Look at LinkedIn. Coca Sexton, Senior Social Marketing Manager at LinkedIn, said his strategy is to keep sending them educational materials, then drop in something on your company, and they will click on it. The reason behind this is simply to build trust. He's not forcing a hard sell, but he's continuously reaching out to contacts. You've got to meet me somewhere in the middle.
While compelling, we need to look at what Shopify is doing. So a huge part of their social selling strategy is their blog. In fact, 37% of social media referrals came directly from their blog in 2012. That's just creating useful content to start a conversation with the customer. So it brings the customer in. It not only makes them trust you, but it makes them feel like they are getting a free consultation.
And how much time and money does that cost? These communities already exist. You don't need to create them. Jeff Simmons, consultant at B2B Marketing Portal, said the two biggest wins in social selling this year, $70 million and $47 million, came directly from LinkedIn groups. Think about it. Where else can you find your customers, prospects, partners, suppliers, competitors, and thought leaders talking about key topics and trends in your industry? If you're not using LinkedIn groups, you're missing out. You need to be hungry and search out these sources.
So with all due respect, you're too aggressive. Passive connections built on trust will always trump what you can pull. It's not the best practice, it's the only practice.
Pam, you'd never survive in sales.
Cliff Troutop here. I'm getting reports that we have a special caller that's infuriated during this entire conversation. He seems to have impressive credentials. He's entered into our Chicago office. We're going to cut there live right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Cliff. I don't have a lot of time here, but I've been watching the debate for a long time, and I have to say, I think some of these things you're bringing up are a little fruitless. First and foremost, you need to have your marketing and your sales team integrated into a multifaceted social selling strategy. We need collaboration from these people so you can get the best insights and how your salespeople can use social selling to drive those long-standing customers for your business. Secondly, you need to actually train these people. I know we talked about it, but this is so important. You can't just assume that your new salespeople will be able to know how to influence social selling. It's a very complex process that's only going to get better if you're constantly improving and watching that data and changing as you go forward. And then finally, just make sure that the last thing you do when you're doing the social selling strategy is trying to make relationships. In this day and age, there's so many things cluttering the software industry. You really need to be focusing on how your players are getting out there into the minds and the hearts of your customers instead of just their wallets. That's all I have. Thank you very much, and it was great to be on. Bye.
And that concludes another edition of In the World of Business.
We'd like to thank all our valuable guests for joining us on this journey through the world of social selling.
Indeed, I'm Susan Watsby.
And I'm Cliff Troutop. From all of us here at SSP News, good night.
Good morning, sales professionals, and welcome back to ABC Always Breakfast Channel. All right, we've got our first caller, JP from Kingston, Ontario. JP, you're on the line?
Yes, hello. So I just been wondering, what differentiates social selling from content marketing or digital marketing?
Hi, JP. Thanks for your call. I'm going to report. So it sounds like social selling incorporates digital marketing or content marketing or creation aspects, but ultimately focuses on the core principle of building relationships with connections using social tools.
Oh.
Sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next caller is Jen, who's calling from Toronto. Hi, Jen. You're on the line?
Hi, yes. So you talked a lot about using LinkedIn, but I was wondering if you could give me some tips for updating my profile or what information I should include.
You want to appear human, so indicate a quick summary about yourself and any passions or interests. Many professionals get stuck in the rut of optimizing their profile for a recruiter as opposed to a prospect. So, keep your intended audience in mind. You're really building this profile not for you, but for them. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Thanks for your call. We appreciate it.
So our last caller today is Phil, and he's joining us from Calgary, Alberta. Hello, Phil.
Howdy. I'm hoping to get your perspective on blogging. Should my small software business be blogging? Should the salespeople be blogging?
Hey Phil, so excellent question. I find that the question of whether or not to blog is often top of mind with the software executives that I work with. So blogging can be a great way to establish your thought leadership or reinforce key areas of knowledge. However, you want to keep things focused on industry best practices as opposed to the features of your software solution. So your content doesn't sound like, one big sales page. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have today on Always Breakfast.